My name is Emily Carter. I'm 38 years old, and the day my boyfriend decided to help by cleaning my house, he threw away my daughter's future. The funny thing is, it didn't look like a catastrophic day when it started. It was just a Thursday. I came home at 6:15 p.m., keys in my teeth, work bag digging into my shoulder, grocery tote bumping my hip. The sun was doing that soft, honey gold thing through the kitchen window, making the dust in the air look almost pretty. For about 3 seconds, my brain registered normal. The faint smell of coffee, the low hum of the fridge, the quiet of a teenage girl who should have been in her converted garage art studio, obsessing over charcoal shading. Then I saw her. My daughter, Lily, 17 years old, was sitting on the kitchen floor with her back against the cabinet doors, knees pulled to her chest. A crumpled paper bag was pressed to her mouth. Her whole body shook, but there were no tears. Not crying. Past crying. Lily? The grocery bag slipped from my hand and thudded onto the tile. Hey, baby, what's going on? She didn't look up. Her eyes were fixed on a spot on the far wall like she was staring at something only she could see. Where is it? She whispered into the paper bag, her voice thin and high. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I dropped my work bag, my keys, everything. Lily. I knelt in front of her, pried the bag gently away from her face. Her breaths came sharp and shallow, bordering on gasps. Look at me. In and out. One at a time, okay? I need you to tell me what's wrong. She blinked like she'd forgotten I existed, then finally dragged her gaze up to mine. Her pupils were huge. Her lips were pale. He threw it away, she said. What? My portfolio. The words cracked on her tongue. He threw away my portfolio. For a second, my brain refused to process the sentence. It tried to rearrange it into something less insane. He moved it. He smudged it. He knocked it over. Slow down, I said, keeping my voice low, even. I'd talked her through fevers and breakups, and that time she sliced her thumb with an X-Acto knife, but I'd never seen her like this. Who are we talking about? What portfolio? She shoved her phone into my hands with trembling fingers. Brandon, she said. Your boyfriend. He cleaned the garage. Brandon, my boyfriend of a year and a half, 32, worked from home doing social media consulting, which seemed to mean posting on Instagram, calling it content strategy, and complaining that my house was chaotic. I looked at the screen. A text thread with his name at the top, 2:07 p.m. Brandon. Hey, cleaned out the garage today. Threw away all those old art projects that were taking up space. You're welcome. House looks so much better. Lily's reply, sent at 2:11 p.m., was a string of words that looked like they'd been typed with shaking hands. What art projects? His bubble popped up again. That dusty black case thing and like 3 canvases. They looked ancient, LOL. The next line was Lily's. That was my college portfolio. Then his answer. Oops. Well, you can make new stuff, right? Trash already got picked up this morning. My vision went a little gray at the edges. 8 months. 20 pieces. The black portfolio case that sat on its own shelf in the garage-turned-studio, labeled in thick white paint marker, College Portfolio, Do Not Move. Tell me you're joking, I said, even though I knew Lily wouldn't be sitting on my floor gasping into a paper bag for a joke. She shook her head, hair falling around her face. He texted me at 2. I was in AP English. I didn't see it until almost 3. By the time I called the city, the trash truck had already been to our street. They said they don't let people climb in the dump because of liability. Her voice sped up, words spilling over each other. I checked all the neighbors' bins. I walked the whole cul-de-sac. It's gone, Mom. Everything is gone. I stood up because if I stayed crouched, I wasn't sure I'd get up at all. Okay, I said, even though nothing was okay. Okay. Did you call the school? She nodded once. They said the scholarship requires the physical portfolio. They have to see textures and scale and all that. They said they can give me until May 1st, but... She laughed, a sharp, broken sound. I can't remake 8 months of work in 3 weeks. My chest felt too tight. Lily had been working toward one school for 3 years. A tiny, brutal, 7% acceptance rate art college with faculty whose names she said with reverence. Last month, she'd gotten the email. Accepted, plus a $50,000 scholarship that made an impossible tuition suddenly almost manageable. The scholarship letter was on our fridge, held up by a magnet shaped like a paint palette. I glanced at it now, at the bolded line that said, Scholarship contingent upon receipt of physical portfolio by April 15th. I took a breath that didn't feel like it went anywhere and hit Brandon's name on my phone. He answered on the third ring, bright and chipper. Hey babe, you home? Did you see how clean the garage looks? Where is Lily's portfolio? My voice was low enough that Lily looked up sharply. There was a pause on the line. Oh my God, Brandon said, his tone flipping instantly from cheer to irritation. Are you seriously mad? I was trying to help. The black portfolio case, I said, on the shelf, by itself, with a label that said, College Portfolio, do not move. Where is it? I told Lily. It's gone, he said. Trash came this morning. It was taking up so much room, Em, and it looked like no one had touched it in forever, just sitting there, collecting dust. She's been working on it every single day for 8 months, I said. That was her entire application for her dream art school. Silence. I could hear him breathing on the other end. Well, she should have said something, he muttered. I don't read every little label. I was in cleaning mode. Besides, if it was so important, why was it just sitting there? Lily yanked the phone out of my hand. It was sitting there because I finished it, she snapped. I was waiting for the last piece to fully dry before submitting. You threw away my entire portfolio. Don't yell at me, Brandon said. God, you guys are so dramatic. It's art. Just draw some new pictures. You're good at art. My daughter's face crumpled like he'd slapped her. I took the phone back. She got into that school, Brandon, I said. The one she's been working toward for 3 years? The scholarship is $50,000. The portfolio has to be physically submitted in 3 weeks. Without it, the scholarship is gone. He gave a short, disbelieving laugh. Okay, so she's in, he said. What's the problem? She's talented. She can make more stuff. This really isn't my fault, Emily. I didn't know some random art junk was worth money. It wasn't junk, I said. And you were told not to touch anything in the garage. I texted you that 6 weeks ago. I live there too, he snapped. I have a right to clean. You're blowing this way out of proportion. I was trying to make the place less of a disaster. House looks so much better now, by the way. You're welcome. Lily made a sound somewhere between a sob and a growl and pushed herself to her feet, stumbling toward her room. I heard her door shut. All right, I said quietly. We'll talk when you get home. If this is still about the stupid art thing, I already said I'm sorry, he said. You haven't apologized once, I replied. You said we're dramatic, and it's not your fault. He huffed into the phone. Whatever, I've got a client call, he said. We'll talk later when you're less emotional. He hung up. The line went dead. For a long minute, I stood alone in my kitchen, listening to the sound of my daughter crying softly behind her bedroom door and the faint hum of the fridge. The scholarship letter stared at me from the refrigerator door, bright and cheerful and suddenly cruel. I went to her room, sat on the floor beside her bed, and held her while she shook. I told her we'd try everything. The waste facility, the school, any extension we could get. I promised things I wasn't sure I could deliver, because that's what you do when your kid's world caves in. We spent the rest of the evening on the phone, hitting every dead end. By the time Brandon walked in at 8, the house was dim except for the kitchen light. He set his keys down like nothing had happened. Hey, he said, shrugging off his jacket. So, what's for dinner? I'm starving. We need to talk, I said. He rolled his eyes. Oh my God, Emily, if this is still about the art. It's about you throwing away 8 months of my daughter's work, I said, and a $50,000 scholarship, and then acting like we're overreacting. He scoffed. I made a mistake, he said. People make mistakes. I cleaned. That's what you've been nagging me to do for months. Now suddenly I'm the villain because your kid left her stuff lying around in a shared space? The garage is not a shared space, I said. It's her studio. You were explicitly told not to touch anything in there, eh? I live here too, he snapped, his voice rising. I have a right to clean. And honestly, your daughter is bratty. She's 17, not 5. She can start over. She's got time. You acting like I murdered someone is insane. I watched him, really watched him, like I hadn't in months. The way his jaw clenched when he said, my daughter. The way cleaning had become control. The way every apology was wrapped around the word you instead of I. You don't live here anymore, I said. His mouth fell open. Excuse me? Pack your things, I said. My voice came out so calm it surprised me. You need to leave. You're breaking up with me because I threw away some art projects? He demanded. Are you serious right now? Not some art projects, I said. 8 months of work, $50,000, her future, and all you can think about is how the garage looks. He stared at me like I'd grown another head. This is insane, he said. You're almost 40 with a teenager, Emily. Do you have any idea how lucky you are that I didn't let him finish. I'll be lucky when my daughter doesn't have to live with someone who thinks her life's work is clutter, I said. You've got until Sunday to get the rest of your stuff. After that, I'm changing the locks." His face went red. "You're going to regret this so much," he spat. "You're throwing away a good thing because your dramatic kid had a meltdown over trash." He grabbed his keys and stormed out, slamming the door hard enough that a picture frame rattled on the wall. An hour later, my phone buzzed on the counter. "When you calm down and stop being so emotional, we can talk like adults. I forgive you for overreacting." I stared at the message, then blocked his number. Saturday morning, I did something I'd never done in my life. I called a lawyer. I didn't sleep much that weekend. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the black portfolio case, the brushstrokes I'd watched form on those canvases, the way Lily's shoulders used to relax when she walked into the garage and shut the door behind her. Now the door stayed open. She sat at her desk instead, staring at a blinking cursor on a scholarship portal she could no longer complete. Monday morning, I put on my most neutral blouse, the one I wore when I needed people to take me seriously, and drove to a lawyer's office in a low, glass front building across town. The sign out front said Andrews and Cole, Family and Civil Law. The waiting room smelled like coffee and old paper. A plant in the corner was trying its best. The receptionist took my name, my ID, and the stack of documents I'd printed and smoothed out so many times the edges were starting to curl. Copies of Lily's acceptance letter, the scholarship terms, screenshots of Brandon's texts, photos Lily had taken of each piece of the portfolio as she finished them. "He'll be with you in just a minute," the receptionist said. "Can I get you water or coffee?" "No, thank you," I said, though my mouth was dry. When the lawyer came out to greet me, he was not the shark in a $1,000 suit I'd vaguely imagined. He looked like someone's tired uncle, mid-50s, rumpled tie, glasses perched on the end of his nose. "Ms. Carter, I'm Daniel Andrews," he said, shaking my hand. "Come on back." His office walls were lined with framed degrees and photos of teenagers in graduation caps. On the shelf behind his desk was a mug that said, "World's Okayest Lawyer." Somehow, that made me feel better. "All right," he said, settling in behind his desk. "Tell me what happened. Take your time." I told him everything. About Lily's 3-year plan for one particular art school, the late-night sketching sessions, the portfolio case on the shelf in the garage, labeled in giant white letters, the text I'd sent Brandon 6 weeks before. "The garage is Lily's art studio. Please don't move or touch anything in there." His reply, "Fine. I won't touch your precious art room." I slid the printouts across his desk, my fingers trembling only a little. He read in silence, occasionally underlining something with his pen. The acceptance letter, the scholarship offer, the clause about the physical portfolio, the email from the admissions counselor apologizing but reiterating they needed the actual pieces, not photos, the message declining full scholarship after the rushed replacement. When he got to Brandon's text, that dusty black case thing and like 3 canvases, they looked ancient, LOL. "Oops, trash already got picked up this morning. Just draw some new pictures." He sighed and leaned back in his chair. "This is viable," he said. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard him. "What?" "This is viable," he repeated. "We're talking about destruction of property with quantifiable damages. The scholarship offer is documented. The physical portfolio requirement is explicit. You've got proof you told him not to touch anything in that space, proof he admitted to throwing it away, and proof of the consequences." "Quantifiable," I said slowly. As in dollars," he said. "The scholarship amount is $50,000, plus emotional distress for your daughter, plus your legal fees. We can pursue the full amount in civil court." I swallowed. "And what are the chances we actually win?" I asked. "I mean, he's going to say it was an accident, that he didn't know." "There are no guarantees," Daniel said. "But this is not nothing. This isn't, I bumped into a vase at a party. This is, I was explicitly told not to touch something. I ignored that boundary, destroyed it, and now a documented scholarship is gone. Judges look at patterns. Juries look at patterns. The documentation is solid. I'd say you have a strong case." Strong case. The words hit me in 2 places at once. In my chest, where the mother part of me lives, all raw instinct and protectiveness, something unclenched. In my stomach, where the practical part of me lives, something tightened. Money, time, court, stress. "What would this actually look like?" I asked. "If we do this?" "We file a complaint in civil court," he said. "He gets served. There's a preliminary hearing. If there's no settlement, we go to trial. This will not be quick, Ms. Carter, or stress-free. But if you want him to be held financially accountable for the damage he caused, this is how you do it." I thought about Lily deleting her Instagram the night before after seeing classmates share Brandon's vague posts about toxic exes who ruin men's lives over nothing. I thought about Brandon saying, "You'll regret this. You're almost 40 with a teenager. You won't find better." I want him to understand that my daughter's work is not nothing, I said. I want him to feel this, even a fraction of how she felt sitting on that kitchen floor. Daniel nodded. "Then we'll file," he said. We did. By Thursday, the paperwork was in, notarized, and moving through the system. Friday afternoon, Brandon was served at his new apartment. I know because my phone lit up with missed calls like a slot machine. 8, then 11, then 17. I didn't pick up. I let each one roll to voicemail, the little red notification bubble climbing with every angry rant he left. "What the hell, Emily? You're abusing the legal system. My mom's friend is a paralegal. She says this won't hold up. You're only doing this because you're bitter about the breakup. You think a judge is going to give you 50 grand over some trash? Good luck." I sat at the kitchen table with Lily's acceptance letter in front of me and listened to every single message, then forwarded them to Daniel's email. "Document everything," he'd said, "even if you think it's petty, especially if you think it's petty." That evening, my phone buzzed with a group text notification. It was from a number I recognized, but not as a close friend, one of Brandon's yoga buddies, a woman named Kelly I'd met twice. The group chat name at the top said, "Be kind, do no harm." Brandon's message was the first one. "Can you believe this? Emily is suing me because I cleaned. She's trying to take my money because her daughter is dramatic. Please talk some sense into her." The thread below it was a mess of shocked emojis and cheap sympathy. OMG, that's insane. Some people just want drama. She always seemed controlling TBH. Then a separate text came in from Kelly directly. "Hey, Emily, I heard what's going on. This feels really extreme. I know you're hurting, but do you really want to ruin his life over art supplies?" Art supplies. 8 months of work. A $40,000 tuition gap. My kid sleeping with her acceptance letter folded under her pillow like a talisman. I took a breath and called Kelly. "Hi," I said when she answered. "Let me clarify something. I'm not suing over art supplies. I'm suing because he destroyed 8 months of work and cost my daughter a $50,000 scholarship. I'm not asking for revenge money. I'm asking him to pay for what he destroyed." There was a long pause. "I didn't realize it was that much," she said finally. "He just said—" "I know what he said," I replied. "You're welcome to testify to that in court if you'd like." I hung up before she could respond and forwarded that conversation summary to Daniel too. By Sunday, Brandon had crafted an entire narrative on social media. Vague posts about men who can't even clean without being punished, women who weaponize courts when relationships end, and how scary it is when someone you love turns into your enemy. He never used my name, but we had enough mutuals that people knew. My DMs filled up. "Hey, is this about you? Just checking in. Are you okay? I don't know what happened, but suing is a lot, don't you think? Wow, didn't expect you to be the crazy ex type." Lily saw some of it. I watched her scroll, her jaw tightening a little more with each message. That night, she sat on the couch, opened her phone, and started deleting apps. First Instagram, then TikTok, then whatever else 17-year-olds use to feel less alone. "You don't have to do that," I said quietly. "I'm tired of people having opinions about my life when they don't even know what happened," she said. Her voice was flat, older than 17. "If I don't have accounts, they can't tag me. They can still talk, but I don't have to see it." I wanted to hug her and shake the entire internet at the same time. Instead, I sat next to her and we watched the icons disappear one by one. The next morning, I called Daniel. "I'm done trying to look like the reasonable ex," I said. "He's painting us as abusers while we're just sitting here taking it. Is there anything we can actually do about the social media stuff?" "Yes," he said. "We amend the complaint. Defamation, harassment, witness intimidation. Send me everything." I spent an hour compiling screenshots. Every vague post, every DM that referenced his side of the story, every attempt to turn friends and acquaintances into his little PR team. Then I sent them all. When I hit attach, my hand stopped shaking. Later that afternoon, Lily knocked lightly on my home office door. "Do you think I'm being too dramatic?" she asked. Her eyes were rimmed red, but there were no tears. "No," I said. "I think you're underreacting. If I were you, I'd have set something on fire by now." She gave a small, crooked smile that faded almost as quickly as it appeared. "I just keep thinking," she said. "If he had walked into your office and thrown away 8 months of work on your computer, would anyone be telling him to calm down?" I thought about my job, the timelines, the spreadsheets, the projects that took months of overtime. "No," I said. They'd ask him if he wanted to press charges. Lily nodded, then looked down at her hands. I know the money won't get the scholarship back, she said, and I know I'm going to state now, but I'm glad you're doing this. Something in my chest softened. I'm not doing this because I like courtrooms, I said. I'm doing it because I need you to know your work matters, even when someone with a louder voice says it doesn't. Outside, the late afternoon light hit the living room in that same honey gold way, soft and gentle, and utterly indifferent to the mess inside the house. We sat there for a while in the quiet. Somewhere in my inbox, Brandon's lawyer was about to get a new file full of exhibits. Somewhere down the line, a judge who looked perpetually unimpressed would read them. But right then, all I could think was this. He thought he was throwing away clutter. He had no idea he'd just thrown us into a war. The harassment didn't begin all at once. It came like a slow leak, annoying at first, then exhausting, then terrifying once I realized the leak wasn't random. It was coming from Brandon. The first sign was a call from my supervisor on Wednesday afternoon. I was in the break room, microwaving soup, trying to pretend my life was normal for 10 minutes. Emily, my supervisor said, his voice too carefully neutral. Hey, got a weird call today. My stomach dropped. From who? Someone claiming to be your ex-boyfriend's attorney. I closed my eyes. What did he say? That you've been using company time and company devices to harass his client. That you're sending threatening messages during work hours. I almost laughed. Almost. I haven't contacted him at all, I said. Everything goes through my lawyer. That's what I assumed, he said. But I needed to tell you, just in case this escalates. Escalates. The word sat on my tongue like iron. Thanks, I said softly. I appreciate the heads up. When I hung up, my hands were trembling. Not because I feared losing my job. I had proof, timestamps, and a lawyer. But because I knew why Brandon did it. To rattle me. To get ahead of the story. To paint me as unstable before the court date. That night, something worse happened. At 11:04 p.m., my doorbell rang. Not a friendly ring, not a hesitant one. A hard, insistent ring, over and over. Lily, who had been asleep, came stumbling out of her room in a panic. I grabbed my phone and opened the video doorbell feed. And there he was, Brandon, drunk, swaying, holding a bottle of cheap red wine like it was a peace offering. Emile! He slurred at the camera. Let me in. We need to talk. My throat tightened. I hit the microphone button. Go home, Brandon. He jerked at the sound of my voice. He pointed vaguely at the camera. You can't do this to me. You can't. I love you. This is stupid. Let me in so we can fix it. No. My voice didn't shake. I don't know how. Leave. I'm calling the police. You wouldn't, he spat. I lifted my phone so the camera could see the screen. My thumb hovered over call non-emergency. His face twisted. Anger, desperation, humiliation, all fighting for control. Then he screamed something I couldn't even understand, stumbled backward, and staggered down the walkway before disappearing into the dark. Lily stood behind me, arms wrapped around her torso. Is he coming back? She whispered. No, I said, even though I had no idea. I barely slept. By 7 a.m., I was in the shower when the doorbell rang again. Not Brandon. Worse, his mother. I opened the door a crack, hair still damp, anxiety simmering. She shoved her foot forward, preventing me from closing it. You need to drop this lawsuit, she said, her voice shaking with fury. My my son, made a mistake. You are ruining his life. Do you understand? Ruining it. Behind me, Lily peeked from the hallway. He destroyed her future, I said. It was an accident, she snapped. He didn't know. And now he's sick with worry. He's lost weight. He can't sleep. And you're, what? Dragging him into court over some paint? Paint. That word did it. I'm not discussing this with you, I said. Please leave our property. You're doing this because he broke up with you, she hissed. Everyone can see that. I broke up with him, I said quietly, because he destroyed $50,000 of my daughter's work and didn't care. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. You think you're going to win this? You won't. And when my son's life is ruined, everyone will know who did it. I already know who's been trying to ruin ours, I said, and I'm documenting everything. She blinked. I closed the door. She stood on the porch for 5 more minutes, ranting loud enough that the neighbors peeked through blinds. I recorded all of it through the door camera. When she finally left, my arms felt like rubber. Later that afternoon, a 1-star review appeared on my workplace's page. Employs vindictive women who weaponize lawsuits against men just for cleaning. Would not recommend supporting this business. Then someone called the city and reported my truck as abandoned. I had to take the afternoon off work to go to the DMV and prove it was registered. Then, because all disasters come in threes, someone reported me to Child Protective Services. CPS showed up at my door. Lily froze. The caseworker, thankfully, was calm and gentle. She asked routine questions, walked through our house, talked to Lily alone. 10 minutes later, she apologized. "We've been getting a lot of false reports like this lately," she said. "I'm sorry someone's putting you through this." When I closed the door behind her, I sank onto the couch and let my face fall into my hands. "This is never going to stop," I whispered. Lily sat next to me. "Mom," she said softly, "you're not going to drop the lawsuit, right?" I lifted my head. "No," I said, "I'm not." She nodded once, and something in her shoulders, some invisible tension, released. But the universe wasn't done with us. The next morning, we finally heard back from the art school. An email, 4 lines long. "Thank you for your submission. We appreciate your effort in recreating the portfolio. Unfortunately, it does not meet the standards required for our scholarship program. Your acceptance stands, but without financial aid, tuition will be $52,000 per year." Lily didn't cry. She just stared at the screen, her face hollow, like everything important had been scooped out of her. "It's fine," she said. "State University is fine." Then she went to her room and shut the door, quietly. Not a slam, not a sob, just a quiet, definitive click. That night, I emailed Daniel again. "I want to file for a restraining order," I wrote. "Here are the new incidents. Please advise." He called within 5 minutes. "We'll file tomorrow," he said. And we did. The hearing was set for Friday. Brandon arrived with his lawyer and his mother. He wore a soft, neutral sweater and sad eyes, trying to look like a wronged saint. His mother glared at me like she was willing me to drop dead in the courtroom aisle. His lawyer tried to argue that Brandon needed protection from me, that this lawsuit was emotional harassment, that I was the aggressor, that he was fearful for his safety. The judge, a woman in her 50s with eyes like sharpened steel, held up a printout of Brandon's drunken midnight doorbell appearance. "This is your client?" she asked. His lawyer swallowed. "Yes, Your Honor, but—" "And this is him showing up at the minor child school?" "Yes, but he—" "And these are numerous social media posts attempting to turn the public against the plaintiff?" "Yes, but context—" "And this," she said, holding up another page, "is a false CPS report with the assigned caseworker noting malicious intent suspected." Brandon shifted in his seat. His mother growled under her breath. The judge sighed. "Resisting responsibility seems to be a pattern here," she said. Then she granted the restraining order. 100 yards. 6 months. No contact, direct or indirect. Brandon's composure cracked. "This is insane," he shouted. She is the one suing me. Why am I the one?" "Sit down," the judge said sharply. "Another outburst, and I will hold you in contempt." Brandon shut his mouth, but the hatred in his eyes was unmistakable. As Lily and I walked out of the courthouse, the sun warming our shoulders, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Not victory, not joy, just stability. A single brick placed back in a wall Brandon had been kicking at for weeks. But that feeling lasted about 4 hours, because at 8:13 p.m. that night, I got an email from Daniel. "Emily," it read, "Brandon's lawyer wants to negotiate. They're offering $15,000 if you drop everything, including the restraining order." I stared at the screen. Then I typed, "No, 45,000. The restraining order stays." Daniel responded, "Good. They said that's impossible." "That's not my problem," I wrote. "He destroyed 50,000. 5 minutes later, "They said they might drag this out, make it expensive." "Then let them," I wrote back. "I'm not folding." That night, as I turned off the lights and checked the locks twice, I whispered into the dark, "You wanted a war, Brandon. Now you have one." The closer we got to the preliminary hearing, the more it felt like Brandon was unraveling in every direction except the ones that mattered. Instead of apologizing, instead of making amends, instead of even pretending to understand what he'd done, he kept building himself into the tragic hero of a story where Lily and I were the villains. And now that there was a restraining order, his desperation had grown teeth. Every day brought something new. Another jab, another petty sabotage, another reminder that he refused to let consequences exist without dragging us through the mud with him. On Monday, my insurance company called. "Ms. Carter, we received a claim stating you were involved in a hit-and-run last Wednesday in the parking lot of a hardware store." What?" I pressed a hand to my forehead. "It alleges your truck struck a silver sedan and fled the scene." "I was at work all day Wednesday," I said. "I can provide timestamps, emails, building access logs." "Good," the agent said. "We'll need them. The claim looks suspicious. Location, timing, lack of witness information. We're investigating a potential fraud attempt." Fraud attempt. Of course. I gathered every piece of proof and emailed it to them. Claim denied, case closed. Then Tuesday came, and with it, a message to Lily's newly recreated private art account, the one she made only to follow museums and artists she admired. It was from a burner account. No profile picture, no posts, just one message. Your dad's a psycho. You know that, right? He's ruining people's lives over art. You should be ashamed. Lily screenshotted it, walked into the living room, and held out her phone without a word. I didn't even need to ask who it came from. I forwarded it to Daniel. His reply was instant, adding to the file. But Wednesday was the worst. That was the day Brandon showed up at Lily's school. He wasn't allowed on campus, not with the restraining order in place, but apparently he parked just outside the property line, waited until students were leaving, and walked up to Lily as she crossed the parking lot. I only know what happened because Lily called me, breathless and shaking. "Mom," she whispered, "he was here." I gripped the steering wheel, already grabbing my keys. "What do you mean here?" "At school." Her voice cracked. "He tried to talk to me. He said you're destroying his life. He said you're making him pay for a mistake that wasn't even that serious. He said—" "Are you safe right now?" I cut in. "Yes," she said. "The school resource officer yelled at him to back up and told him he was going to call the police if he didn't leave." Brandon drove off. I sat down slowly, like my legs had forgotten how to work. "He violated the restraining order," I said. "I know. We're filing another report." "I know." But the part that gutted me was what she said next. "Mom, why does he hate us this much?" I closed my eyes. "He doesn't hate us," I said quietly. "He hates accountability. He hates that he can't talk his way out of this." Lily didn't respond. That silence broke something in me, so I called Daniel again. "No more waiting," I said. "I want every incident added. The school, the harassment, all of it." "We'll file the violation report tomorrow," he said, "and I'll notify the judge about the escalation." By Friday morning, we were back in court, this time for the restraining order violation. Brandon showed up wearing a button-down shirt and the expression of a man who believed he was the victim of a grand injustice. His mother hovered behind him, lips pursed, arms crossed. The judge looked tired, or maybe just done. "Mr. Hale," she began, "do you understand the terms of the restraining order issued last week?" Brandon cleared his throat. "Yes, Your Honor." "And do you believe showing up at the minor child's school is within 100 yards or outside the limit?" Brandon stepped forward slightly. "Your Honor, I wasn't there to harass anyone. I was trying to talk, to explain. They're twisting everything. Emily is—" "Stop!" The judge lifted a hand. "You approached a 17-year-old at school, knowing you have a no-contact order. That is not a misunderstanding." He tried again. "But I didn't—" "Mr. Hale," she said, her tone sharp with finality. "Sit down." He did. Barely. The judge didn't add jail time, not yet, but she issued a formal violation notice and extended the restraining order from 6 months to a full year. 1 year. Brandon's mother hissed like someone had stepped on her foot, but he didn't dare speak again. That afternoon, as if the universe had timed cruelty intentionally, Daniel called with the news we'd been bracing for. Preliminary hearing, tomorrow. No postponements. I barely slept that night. I thought about Lily's future, the tuition numbers I'd memorized by heart, the way she'd stop sketching altogether, even in her notebooks. I thought about what Brandon's lawyer would say and how he would spin us into villains and himself into a misunderstood martyr. I thought about sitting in a courtroom with him again. The next morning, the courthouse was cold in that way government buildings always are. Too much tile, too little warmth. Brandon arrived with his lawyer and mother. He wore a tailored coat, carried a sleek laptop bag, and walked like a man who had rehearsed appearing composed. His mother gave me a look that belonged in a courtroom drama, sharp, disdainful, utterly confident that she would win on attitude alone. Daniel greeted me with a small nod. "You ready?" he asked. "No," I said honestly, "but I'm here." That earned a tiny smile. Inside the courtroom, the judge took her seat and shuffled papers in front of her. Brandon's lawyer rose, smoothing the lapel of his suit. "Your Honor," he began, "we respectfully request that this entire case be dismissed on the grounds that it is a domestic dispute driven by emotional retaliation, not legitimate damages." Daniel rose so smoothly he looked like he'd done it 1,000 times, which he probably had. "Your Honor, if I may," he said. The judge gestured for him to proceed. Daniel laid out the facts with a clarity that felt surgical. Lily's acceptance letter, the attached scholarship offer, the clause requiring the physical portfolio, the 8 months of documented work, the labeled portfolio case, Emily's text telling Brandon not to touch anything, Brandon's text admitting he threw it away, the school's rejection of the rebuilt portfolio, the tuition difference. Then he said, the defendant did not simply make a mistake. He ignored explicit boundaries, destroyed valuable property, mocked the consequences, harassed both the plaintiff and her daughter, and attempted to manipulate the public narrative. These are not emotional damages. They are financial, documented, and significant. Brandon's lawyer tried to spin it back. This is a breakup, he said. A lover's quarrel that spiraled. The judge cut him off. Did your client throw away the portfolio? The lawyer hesitated. He did, Your Honor, but... Did he receive a message telling him not to touch items in the garage? Another hesitation. It appears so, Your Honor. Did the portfolio contain the physical work required for the scholarship? Yes. The judge turned a page, skimmed it, then looked up. Motion to dismiss denied. Brandon's head snapped up. His mother whispered something vicious under her breath. Daniel nodded once, satisfied. We'll proceed to trial, the judge said. As we stepped out of the courtroom, Brandon's mother lunged toward me. Security stepped between us immediately. You're harassing my son, she yelled. He's had panic attacks over this. He's losing sleep. You're destroying him. Daniel put a hand on my arm and guided me past her as calmly as if we were walking through a grocery store aisle. Let her scream, he murmured. The louder she is, the worse they look. But the universe wasn't done with us yet, because on the way home I got another call. This time from my insurance company again. Ms. Carter, the agent sighed. Another claim just came in. I almost laughed. Almost. What now? Someone reported that your vehicle damaged their bumper in a parking lot 2 weeks ago. I wasn't even in town that day. We already suspected fraud, she said. But now we're flagging your name. It's concerning how many false claims are coming through. Concerning. That was one word for it. That night, Lily came to sit beside me on the couch. She curled her legs under her and leaned against my shoulder. Mom, she whispered, when is this going to end? I wrapped an arm around her. When a judge says it ends. She didn't say anything, but she stayed there, pressed against me, like she was trying to absorb whatever strength I had left. The next morning, Daniel emailed again. We need to prepare. Trial prep starts next week. It hit me then, deep and heavy, that this wasn't even the hard part yet. Everything up to now had been prelude. Noise. Shadows. The opening credits. The real story, the one where we stood in a courtroom and told the world exactly what Brandon had done, was still ahead. I closed my eyes, breathed once, then wrote back. Let's do it. Trial prep didn't feel like preparation. It felt like excavation, like digging through 8 months of our lives and pulling out every piece that hurt. Daniel was thorough, not dramatic, not theatrical, just steady and methodical in a way that made me trust him more than I'd trusted anyone outside my family in years. He started with the documents. Every text, every photo, every call log, every message from him, from witnesses, from anyone who contacted you about the case. I handed over a folder thick enough to injure someone. Next came timeline mapping. Then the witness list, then exhibit labels, then trial strategy. But it wasn't until he started preparing Lily that I felt the full weight of what was coming. She sat across from him in a conference room, wearing her blue hoodie and twisting the cuff around her fingers. Her hair was up in a messy braid. Her eyes were tired in a way that didn't belong on a 17-year-old. Lily, Daniel said gently, they're going to ask you questions meant to confuse you, frustrate you, or make you second-guess yourself. That's their job. Your job is to tell the truth. She nodded, but her throat bobbed. They may try to downplay the portfolio, he continued, or suggest you could have recreated it, or say you didn't specifically warn Brandon that it was valuable. It was labeled, Lily whispered. I know, Daniel said, but they'll still try. Lily pressed her lips together. Just answer simply, he said. Honestly, you don't need to convince anyone. You just need to say what happened. Lily nodded, and for a moment, she looked at him the way she used to look at her favorite art teacher, like he was someone who saw her clearly. After prep, we drove home in quiet. Lily watched the passing neighborhoods through the window, her head leaning against the glass. Mom, she said finally, voice small, do you think they'll believe me? I didn't lie. Yes, I said, I do. But inside, I wondered whether truth was enough anymore. 3 weeks before trial, the first crack appeared on Brandon's side. An email. From a new address. Sent at 10:42 p.m. Subject line, please read, I'm begging you. The restraining order allowed his lawyer to email mine. It did not allow Brandon to message me directly. But here it was. I nearly deleted it, but curiosity tugged at me. The email was 6 paragraphs of melodramatic desperation. He said he was in therapy, that he'd had no idea the portfolio was valuable, that he'd lost his apartment and was back with his parents, that legal fees were destroying him, that he was sorry, that he'd do anything to make things right, just not pay $50,000. The last paragraph. I know you hate me, Emily, but please don't ruin my life. I can't afford this. I'll be paying it off until I'm 50. Please, can we meet in the middle? I'll apologize to Lily. I'll pay something. Just not that much, please. I stared at the screen for a long time, then forwarded it to Daniel. He responded with 2 words. Perfect timing. 3 weeks before trial. 3 weeks after the restraining order violation. 3 months after mocking Lily. 5 months after throwing away the portfolio. Dozens of harassing messages, false reports, lies, and manipulation later. I felt nothing. Not anger, not pity, just nothing. We prepped harder after that. Exhibit binders, color-coded tabs, witness outlines, mock cross-examinations. Lily's art teacher, Ms. Dawson, agreed to testify. She was an older woman with kind eyes and an iron spine. She's one of the most dedicated students I've ever taught, she said when Daniel interviewed her. You can't replicate 8 months of work in 3 weeks. You just can't. Daniel nodded. You might need to explain that in detail. Oh, I can, she said, straightening her glasses. Believe me. 2 nights before trial, Lily knocked on my bedroom door. She slipped inside and sat on the bed beside me, hands folded in her lap. Mom, she whispered, do you think I failed? My breath caught. Failed? I turned toward her. Lily, no, absolutely not. But I'm not going to my dream school, she said. Other kids do it. Other kids get in. I couldn't even... Stop, I said, taking her hands. You didn't fail. Something was stolen from you. You don't blame a burglar for the things they took. Her eyes shimmered, but she didn't cry. I just want this to be over, she whispered. It will be, I said. Soon. Trial day came with gray skies and cold wind. Appropriate, somehow. Lily and I arrived early. Brandon walked in 20 minutes later, looking scrubbed and humble. Neat sweater, pressed slacks. His hair combed just slightly messier than usual. Someone had coached him on appearing vulnerable. His mother was right behind him, her expression already sour. Jury selection was slow, but by midday we had 3 men, 5 women, a retired art teacher, 2 parents, 1 school administrator, and 4 people who looked like they'd seen enough drama in their lives to recognize dishonesty on sight. Daniel whispered, not bad. Brandon's lawyer didn't look pleased. Opening statements began just after lunch. Daniel went first. He painted the story without theatrics, just facts, timeline, consequences, every sentence precise, every point grounded in documentation. The defendant did not make an innocent mistake, Daniel concluded. He violated explicit boundaries, destroyed valuable property, mocked the consequences, and inflicted lasting emotional harm. And he did all of it without remorse, until a court date appeared. Then Brandon's lawyer stood. He wore confidence like cologne. What we have here, he began, pacing slowly, is not a case of destruction, but of heartbreak. A breakup that spiraled, a misunderstanding inflated into an inflated monetary claim. He smiled sympathetically at the jury. My client made an honest mistake while trying to contribute to a household that was, frankly, disorganized and chaotic. This lawsuit is not about art, it's about resentment. I felt Lily stiffen beside me. She didn't look up. Then it was time for testimony. I was the first witness. Daniel led me through everything. How long Lily worked, the warnings to Brandon, the day I came home to find her on the kitchen floor, the scholarship details, the aftermath. Brandon's lawyer tried to tear holes in my story. You told Brandon he wasn't allowed in the garage, correct? No, I said calmly. I told him not to move or touch anything in there. It was my daughter's studio. So you controlled which spaces he could clean? No, I said. I enforced boundaries around a minor's workspace. That's different. Did you ever tell him this portfolio is worth $50,000? I didn't blink. I told him not to touch it. That was enough. He narrowed his eyes. Isn't it true that you are seeking this lawsuit out of anger, not damages? Anger didn't cost my daughter $50,000, I said. His actions did. A murmur moved through the courtroom. Then Lily testified. She looked so small walking to the stand. She sat, placed her hands in her lap, and breathed in slowly, just once. Daniel guided her gently. She explained her pieces, how long each took, what they meant, why they couldn't be remade. Then the defense lawyer approached. Lily, he said softly, as if he cared, did you ever tell Brandon that your portfolio was for a scholarship? It was labeled college portfolio in my studio, she said. He knew I was applying to art schools. But did you ever say, this is for a $50,000 scholarship? Lily shook her head. I didn't think I had to tell someone not to throw away my things without asking. The jurors reacted. Subtle shifts, a few nods, a soft exhale from the retired art teacher. Daniel asked no follow-ups. Then Ms. Dawson took the stand. She dismantled Brandon's lawyer in under 10 minutes. He asked her how long it takes to create portfolio pieces. She said, longer than the defendant has been pretending to care. He asked if Lily could just make new art. She said, art is not assembly line production. He asked if Lily could still succeed without that scholarship. She said, that has nothing to do with the value of what was destroyed. By the time she stepped down, I saw the jury lean slightly forward. Then Brandon testified. He played his part well. Contrite, soft-spoken, eyes lowered at all the right moments. I never meant to hurt anyone, he said. I thought I was helping. I didn't know it was important. But Daniel's cross-examination was a scalpel. You received a message 6 weeks before this incident telling you not to touch anything in the garage, correct? I don't remember. Daniel projected the text on the screen. Brandon's reply, fine, I won't touch your precious art room. Brandon's jaw tightened. You saw a portfolio case labeled, do not move, correct? It looked old. You carried it to the curb. I was cleaning fast. So fast you couldn't read? I didn't think... That, Daniel said, is the problem. He walked Brandon through every mocking message. Oh my God, are you seriously mad? You guys are dramatic. She can draw new pictures. Brandon's face went red. And what did you do to help fix the situation? Daniel asked. Brandon blinked. What do you mean? After you threw it away and learned it was important, what did you do? Well, the trash had already been picked up. What did you do to help? Daniel repeated. Silence. You told a devastated 17-year-old to just make new pictures, Daniel said. Is that correct? Brandon swallowed. Yes. The courtroom was so quiet you could hear the fluorescent lights buzzing. His mother dabbed fake tears from her eyes. His best friend testified next, insisting Brandon was a good person who was devastated. Daniel asked one question. When did he become devastated? Before or after he was served with the lawsuit? She hesitated. After, but... No further questions. Closing arguments took an hour. Daniel didn't sermonize. He didn't dramatize. He simply laid out the truth. Then the jury left. Lily and I sat together on the hallway bench as the minutes stretched into hours. 1 hour. 2 hours. 3 hours. 4 hours. Finally, a bailiff opened the door. Verdict is in. My heart stuttered. We walked back in hand. The jury foreman stood. In the case of Carter versus Hale, he read, we find the defendant liable for destruction of property and emotional distress. Lily gripped my hand harder. Damages awarded. $38,000 for destruction of property, $9,200 for legal fees. My vision blurred. The foreman continued. We calculated the tuition difference between the art school and state university for 4 years, subtracting housing portions of the scholarship offer, and added documented emotional distress. Brandon's mother erupted. This is robbery! She robbed my son! Ma'am, the judge warned, sit down or leave the courtroom. Brandon sat frozen, utterly still, face pale. His lawyer leaned close, whispering furiously. Brandon whispered back, I don't have $12,000. The judge said coolly, that is between you and your attorney. You have 45 days for the initial payment. Court adjourned. The gavel cracked. The sound echoed. Outside, Brandon's mother tried to push past security to get to me. Security stopped her before she got within 10 feet. Brandon sent one final email through his lawyer that night. Hope you're happy. You've destroyed my life. I'll be paying this off until I'm 50. I didn't answer. The next morning, my bank app pinged. A deposit. $12,000. No note. Just payment. I stared at the number for a long time before transferring it straight into a college fund account with Lily's name on it. It wouldn't replace her dream, but it was something real, something tangible, something no one could throw away. That night, Lily sat beside me on the porch, sketchbook balanced on her knees. For the first time in months, she was drawing. Small lines, soft shading, nothing dramatic, just movement. Progress. Mom, she said quietly, do you think I could apply to transfer in a couple years? The question was cautious, hopeful. I smiled. I think you can do whatever you want, I said. And if you want that school, we'll try again, together. She nodded, staring at her sketch. I know this didn't fix everything, she said. No, I agreed softly, but now he knows something he didn't before. What? That your work matters, and people who destroy it don't get to walk away. I looked at her, my daughter, trying to rebuild from nothing, and felt the final truth settle like a stone in my chest. He had thrown away her future, but he didn't get to keep it. We did.